In 2015, there were 365,500 fires in homes, resulting in 11,075 people injured and another 2,650 killed. In many, if not most of those instances, disaster could have been avoided if specific safety steps had been taken. Today on Weekend Connection, we'll examine some of those steps we can take to prevent fires in our home. I'm Vic Gregory, and let's get connected. If you have children who are attending or have attended public school, then there is a good chance that you have or will conduct a fire drill in your home. Many a family has learned the importance of having an escape plan in case of fire, home fire alarms, and even fire extinguishers as a result of school projects. However, there is still more that can be done. Joining me today is Judy Comoletti. She is a division manager for public education with the National Fire Protection Association. And Judy, we welcome you to our Weekend Connection broadcast today.
It's great to be here.
It's our privilege to have you. First of all, let's report that there is good news. The number of home fires is significantly lower than it was in 1977 when there were 723,500 home fires, or in 1995 when there were 414,000 home fires in the United States. Judy, to what would you attribute such a significant drop in home fire incidents?
Well, there are several things that contribute. Let's talk about the first, and that is engineering, where things have changed. I remember years ago, if I had an iron and I left it plugged and going, it would stay on. Now your irons shut off automatically. Or a space heater, if it tipped over years ago, it would not shut off. Now they are all equipped with a button that will shut off the space heater. So there have been some great engineering things happening. We have some good enforcement going on where the fire service is out in some instances offering home inspections to look at a home to identify any fire safety issues that they see. We also see some economic incentives, such as a lot of fire departments doing free smoke alarm installation programs. And then finally, education, which is my area of expertise, and that's where we have a lot of information going out to people of all ages within the community, teaching them how to be fire safe.
Well, as I was reading at your website, I was surprised to see some of the factors that contribute to fires in the home. And one of them was hoarding. Now, that was something I wasn't expecting. What is the NFPA referring to when it cites hoarding as a cause of home fires, and how is that activity a factor?
Well, hoarding is a condition where a person has difficulty discarding personal possessions. And the large amount of possessions tend to fill the home and prevent the normal use of space, such as your living space becomes unusable. So, for example, sometimes hoarding is so bad that people don't even have a bed to sleep in anymore, or they're not able to even cook in the kitchen because they can't get in the kitchen because it is so cluttered with these possessions. So it really becomes a risk when these items could be placed too close to a heat source, such as a stove or any kind of heat-producing device. So it's very dangerous for the people living in this kind of situation.
You wouldn't think about that. Another overlooked potential fire hazard is lint buildup in the dryer. And we're just not talking about what's happening with the lint trap, are we?
Well, with dryers, we know that 92% of the home fires are caused by clothes dryers. And the thing that it happens most often is it's a failure to clean, and that means it's a failure to clean that lint trap. So NFPA recommends that every time you use your dryer, you need to take that lint trap out and clean it every time. I know I do that myself all the time, every time I use my dryer. And in addition, it's probably a good idea to clean out the hose that goes to the outside of your home for the dryer. And there are handymen around who will do that kind of activity for you, clean out the vent and make sure that there isn't a lot of lint there.
Judy, I have found that where the lint travels from the lint trap to the back of the dryer also accumulates lint. And I've had to take my vacuum cleaner hose and run it up inside the back of the dryer to clean accumulated lint out of that area as well. So it's not just the lint trap.
Absolutely, you are right there. And again, I mean, if you can do it yourself, that's great. I've seen kits available to help you do that cleaning, or you could get someone in to do it for you if you're not feeling comfortable. But they'll usually do around the tub of the dryer too. But it all collects lint. It's amazing how much lint can be there.
Mhm. Now, I have a wood-burning fireplace in my home, and I have learned that it is important to have it checked periodically. Talk some about that, if you would.
Absolutely. It's important to have your fireplace, especially the chimney. You need to have the chimney inspected and, if needed, cleaned every year. Because what happens is when you're burning your wood in the fireplace, some of it does not completely burn, and it forms what's called creosote
Mm-hmm.
on the inside of your fireplace, and that's a sticky type material. And over time, this accumulates. And if you have a fire in your fireplace and it's really hot, this creosote can actually catch fire.
Right.
So then what happens is you don't only have a fire in your fireplace, but you have that fire going up your entire chimney. And that could be a very dangerous situation. So to minimize this issue, you should have it inspected by a professional chimney sweep every year. And, maybe some years it doesn't need to be cleaned, but it's better to be safe than sorry, and have it inspected and make sure that it's running properly. They look at the structure of the chimney. So you just want to, just a little something you can do to make sure that you are a little safer. Another thing that's important is that if you are using wood in your fireplace, burning wood in the fireplace, you want to be careful of those ashes. So if you clean out the fireplace, what you want to do is make sure you put those ashes in a metal can with a lid, and then remove it from the home and keep it well away from your home, at least I would say 25 feet from the home.
We're talking with Judy Comoletti of the National Fire Protection Association, and we're discussing fire prevention in the home. Judy, what about living in older homes that may have faulty wiring? How much does frayed wiring or even outdated coded wiring contribute to house fires?
Well, it could be an issue, and one of the things that we remind people is that if you're buying or remodeling a home, it's a great opportunity to have it inspected by a qualified private inspector in accordance with local requirements. So I think that's one thing that is probably good for people to think about, because, a lot of times we just take flipping on a light switch as just something that happens every day.
Mm-hmm.
But we do have to be cautious and keep safety in mind with electricity. And there are some signs if you're having electrical problems, like if you're frequently blowing out fuses or tripping a circuit breakers, a tingling feeling when you touch an electrical appliance, discolored or warm wall outlets, a burning or rubbery smell coming from an appliance, flickering or dimming lights, or sparks from an outlet. So these are all things that are giving you signs that there's something wrong. So if you have any of these signs, then you definitely want to call a qualified electrician. Or if you live in an apartment, then you definitely want to contact your landlord to get someone in to check it out and see what the problem is and have it repaired properly.
I'm sure that there are other hazards in the home that contribute to residential fire. Is there any particular danger that we didn't cover that you would like to discuss?
Well, I think that's the leading cause of home fires, and that's cooking. So I think what we need to make sure is that we don't leave cooking unattended. So what that means is that if you're frying on the stovetop, you need to stay close by in case something happens. And if you have to leave, even for a moment, if the doorbell rings or someone calls, turn off that stovetop so that you no longer have heat on the stove. But cooking is the leading cause of fire, and it can happen very quickly, especially if let's say you're tired and you're cooking and you put something on the stove to fry up, French fries or something, and then you go sit on the sofa and you fall asleep. Well, you could be in a serious situation. So you want to make sure that you are fully awake when you're cooking on the stove top, and always stay in the kitchen or very close by to keep an eye on what you fry.
Well, you know what? I didn't originally want to discuss this. I didn't think we'd have time to, but since you brought it up, I want to talk a bit about it. When I was a boy, there was a home in the neighborhood, and I remember on 2 occasions that home catching fire because of stoves that weren't cleaned properly. How important is it to regularly clean our oven, clean our stoves?
Well, especially the stove top, because if you're cooking, you want to make sure that any oil spills or food is cleaned up, because that can catch fire. So you do want to be very careful of that, and it's something that we should do after clean the stove top every time you use it. I know I do that myself. Another thing is that you want to keep things that can burn away from the stove top. Mm-hmm. So that includes papers, even the spray oils that you have that you might be using. It's not a good idea to keep those on the stove top. Keep them away from the stove top, away from the heat.
Very good. Well, obviously, your agency wants to do all it can to help prevent residential fires. What are some of the resources that you make available?
Well, NFPA has a lot of information for people. We have a lot of resources that are free on our website. So if people go to nfpa.org/public education, you'll find all kinds of information where we have safety tip sheets. We even have a newsletter that keeps people up to date on what's happening in public education at NFPA. And of course, we are the official sponsor of Fire Prevention Week, which happens every year in October. Mm-hmm. So I think this year people can start getting ready for this year's theme, which is Every Second Counts, Plan 2 Ways Out. So with this year's theme, we're reminding people to know 2 ways out of every room in your home, have an outside meeting place, and be sure to practice that escape plan at least twice a year. And as part of that escape plan, it's important that you have working smoke alarms in your home. So make sure that you have smoke alarms inside each bedroom, outside each sleeping area, and on every level of the home. And then for the best protection, you want to have those smoke alarms interconnected so that when one sounds, they all sound. Mm-hmm. And interconnected alarms, you can have them done by a professional electrician. But now there are wireless alarms that you can buy at a hardware store that you can install yourself, and they talk to each other so that if there's a fire in the basement and that smoke alarm goes off, then the smoke alarm inside your bedroom is going to go off too, giving you the extra protection that you need and more time to get out of the home in case of a fire.
Very good. And again, all of that information is available at your website. And if you would, please give us your website address once again.
Sure. I have a couple of websites. First of all, for general public education information, it's nfpa.org/public education. And then we also have Sparky the Fire Dog, who's our official mascot, and he has lots of fun things for kids to do at sparky.org.
All right, sparky.org. We've been talking with Judy Camaletti. She is the Division Manager for Public Education with the National Fire Protection Association, and we've been discussing steps that we can take to avoid having a fire in our homes. And Judy, we thank you so very much for joining us today.
Thanks so much. It was fun.
Well, next week, Ed Phillips will address another topic of concern for the Christian community, and we invite you to join us then for Weekend Connection here on BBN.
Thank you for listening to this feature, a production of BBN, the Bible Broadcasting Network. BBN provides 24-hour Christian programming, great Christian music, and Bible teaching. Listen to BBN by clicking the link in the description.